Hey guys, this is Steve Huff from SteveHuffPhoto.com. I'm here today with a couple of cool old vintage lenses that I want to talk about to use on my Leica Monochrome. A lot of people who have the Monochrome, I don't know how many people do have the Monochrome. I'm sure Leica has sold quite a few, but not mass amounts because it is a niche kind of camera. It's like a unique thing. No one else today makes a current production 35mm black and white only camera. And there certainly wouldn't be a rangefinder because there's no other rangefinders that are a dedicated black and white camera unless you're talking about film, and of course that's a whole nother story. The Leica Monochrome is a camera that I am just totally head over heels in love with because to me, now this is all my opinion, so take it as that, my opinion. After I use all kinds of cameras. I use every hot camera that comes out. I review them. I test them extensively. Some of them I don't even write about, but I am using them in the background. And I've used many a film camera. Now, film has its qualities. I love film, of course, but the Leica Monochrome, to me, surpasses film. It's almost like medium format film in many ways, but it surpasses 35mm film use. You can get, having this Leica Monochrome camera, even with a $250 lens attached to it, it's like having a Leica M6, not really, but I'm just using an example. It's like having a Leica M6 loaded with every kind of black and white film you could want and then some. You want Tri-X? Sure, no problem, it's in there. You want T-Max? It's in there. You want some Ilford Delta? It's in there. You want some Neopan? It can be there. Because the files that you can get out of this camera can range from flat and dull to crazy contrast and everything in between. You can set it to ISO 10,000 if you want some grain, and the grain looks nice. You can also add grain in filters, so you can get just about any look. And I have seen files come from the Monochrome that look quite awful, a lot like the files, or not files, the images I see in this Vivian Maier book of her street photography. Now, of course, these images in her book have not been edited or altered or enhanced, and what comes out of the Monochrome looks a lot like what I see in this book. And she was using a medium format camera. And this Vivian Maier book, Out of the Shadows it's called, is excellent, superb. Just came in from Amazon, and I've only gotten through half to three quarters, but it's an amazing book, well worth the cost. I'll thumb through it a little bit in a minute. But today I wanted to talk about these vintage lenses for the Monochrome. I've tried every Leica lens, modern lens, on this camera. Not every, but a lot of the hot ones. The 50 Summilux spherical, 35 Summilux FLE, Noctilux, 90 Summachron. I've tried so many lenses on it, and they look good. But when you look at the images that come out of it with those lenses, they can be a little bit on the harsh side. And when I say harsh, I don't mean like unpleasant. I just mean super detailed, super sharp, super perfect. There's not as much character. So when you go to these classic lenses, for example, let me move this out of the way. When you go to these classic lenses, say this one right here, that lens it cost me $250 from KEH.com, and it is a Canon 1.8 LTM lens. That is a Leica screw mount lens, Leica thread mount lens, which does not fit on a Leica M camera. But you can buy these adapters, like so, on Amazon for 10 bucks. This is actually this one is a Voigtlander adapter. I paid a little bit more for this one. The one that I have on my 35 is from Amazon for 10 bucks. So you buy these very skinny, thin adapters that add really no space to the lens or no thickness, and bingo, you can put it on your Leica M. And this lens cost me $250. You can get an adapter for 10 or 12 bucks, so you're looking at $260. Now this, I believe, was in bargain condition, but it looks amazing. Sure, it's used, it's a very old lens, but the focus ring is smooth, the aperture ring is a little stiff, but that just means it's not going to get knocked out of place. Everything is in working order. So I figured, oh, I'm going to put it on my camera and the focus is going to be out of whack. But I put it on the camera and the focus is spot on. At 1.8 you can get sharp but very pleasing images. The bokeh is nice, it's gorgeous. Some people say bokeh, some say bokeh. There's no right or wrong way in my opinion. And I just noticed I could do shadow puppets. Hey, how's that lens on the camera? So anyway, enough being silly. I paid $250 for this lens, and I also have a Leica Summilux spherical 50, which is, as we all know, just about a perfect 50 millimeter lens. But on the monochrome, being that it's in black and white and you won't see any funky colors or yellowish or whatever, this lens is gorgeous. It's amazing for $250. And in many ways, I prefer the rendering of this on the camera over the 50 Summilux spherical. How crazy is that? Now on the Leica M or M9, I would prefer the Summilux because the color quality out of the modern Leica glass is amazing, where some of the older glass, you can kind of get yellowish or faded colors or off colors. But for black and white, you don't have to spend a fortune in lenses on the monochrome. So this lens right here, the 50 1.8 LTM Canon, is highly recommended by me. If you own a monochrome, you owe it to yourself to buy this lens. There's also a 50 1.4 version, which I hear is just as good. You owe it to yourself to try it out. Other ones to look for are the 35 f2. There's a few Canon LTM lenses you can try out. What I have on the camera today is kind of a rare lens. This is a Nikon Nikkor 3.5 centimeter, which is the 35 millimeter 1.8, and I think there's only been like 1,600 copies made, and this is a very old lens as well, but it's a legendary lens. And there was one at KEH for months and months. They lowered the price, and I snagged it with the intent of trying it out, and if I loved it, it was going to stay, and if I didn't like it, it was going to be returned using the KEH return policy. Like if it was off, not focusing correctly, or stiff focus, or just not good. So I've only shot a few frames with it. I can tell you right now that the size is tiny, but it feels solid. It's all metal. And the oddball thing about this lens is the aperture dial goes opposite. So on Leica lenses and this Canon lens, you can see I turn it to the right clockwise to change the aperture. So if I want it at wide open at 1.8, it's all the way to the left. I can go to f22 all the way to the right. That's how Leica lenses are. The Nikon, all the way to the left is f22 and all the way to the right is 1.8, so it's opposite. You start out at 1.8 and then you go the opposite way than you would on other lenses. So it's not really, doesn't bother me because I usually shoot these wide open or close to it anyway. You also have the focus tab here. Now the focusing on this lens is a little stiffer than the Canon. It's not too bad though, but it's definitely not perfect. Now this is this copy. You got to keep in mind there's different copies. KEH rated this as an excellent, but honestly it looks about the same as the Canon that they rated as a bargain. So I don't understand. The Canon to me looks excellent, so I don't know if they just misjudged the Canon. But this Nikon 35 Nikkor C W Nikkor 1.8 lens, 35 millimeter, is legendary. If you search for it, I think on Rangefinder Forum you can read all about it. Now the only quibbles I have with it are that it has a minimum focus distance of 1 meter, where modern lenses 35 millimeter on a rangefinder are 0.7 meters, sometimes as low as 0.5. So this is 1 meter, so you're not going to get up close to your subject, but you can get some nice environmental portraits and scenics with this lens. The quality of the lens is pretty cool. It has gobs of character, as you can see. Now I'm going to go out today and shoot with it some more, so I haven't yet decided or judged it yet. But I love the size, I love the feel, it looks amazing on the camera. But where this lens was $250, this lens, because it's rare and loved by so many, was $1,600, which for that price you can get a brand new Leica Summilux 35 2.5. So it all depends on if you want that classic character. And this lens right here will give you that classic vintage character in your black and white photos, much more so than any modern Leica lens. So it depends on the kind of look you want. Modern, vintage, classic, you know, it's up to you. But with this whole monochrome, the whole vibe is classic lenses, I think, is it. I think that's where it is at with the monochrome. And I see more and more people going that route. Ashwin Rowe, who writes for my site, he's the one who turned me on to all these lenses in the first place. So now, and it's also fun to go looking at all the sites for the old used lenses, because usually they're $200, $300, $400, $500, and occasionally you'll find one that's rare and expensive. But I got to tell you, they do give you much more character than any modern lens, and they'll put some money in your pocket, especially if you find one like the Canon 50 or the 35. You can get a whole Canon set for well less than one modern Leica lens. So, and the photos are not going to suffer unless you want that perfection, that amazing contrast, the amazing sharpness and detail. But in many cases, what I see, you know, this basically, here's how it's going to come down. A lot of people feel classic lenses are no good. But when you look at books like this from Vivian Maier, now keep in mind, these are all from the 60s, I think, and there's nothing lacking in her photos. There's some photos in here that are quite amazing, actually. And you got to remember, these were all shot with classic lenses. So she didn't have a problem using these old lenses, you know. She was using medium format though, but still, the lens formulations were the old kind, because there were no modern lenses back in the 60s. I guess in the 60s that was a modern lens. But her photos, some of these are just gorgeous. So it goes to show you don't always have to spend a fortune for your photography. I mean, if you're a professional and you have demanding clients and you're working in fashion, or you're doing serious portraiture, you might want the modern, you will want the modern glass. But a camera like the monochrome is not really for those who are in the professional field anyway. It's more of a fun camera, something you usually have in addition to your serious one. If you're a professional, you probably won't, some people probably do, you probably won't use this for your pro work. Me, I just love it to death, and everybody who I know that owns one also loves it to death. So it's really a cool camera, one that really is a lifetime camera, as long as the technology and the electronics last, that is. It is digital. So there you go. I just wanted to show you a couple of these lenses. I think I have another one coming in, which is a 50, not a Sumatar, a Sumarit, a 1.5 Leica M mount. I know that lens is noted for being soft, but also very beautiful at the same time. So I'm going to start getting into these classic lenses. And while I still love the modern lenses, there's some gems in the lineup, like the 50 Summilux spherical and the 35 Summilux spherical. The 21 Super Almar's amazing. For the monochrome, now I'm just talking about for the monochrome. Remember, classic lenses can add some character to your photos, so don't dismiss them. So I just wanted to talk about that. And Vivian Maier, I'll put a link to that book in the YouTube description, because I do find it a really good book, good read and good viewing. And it's cheap, so I'll put a link to that in the video description. And always check my website, stevehufpphoto.com, for more camera news, reviews, daily inspirations, guest posts, etc. New stuff almost every day. Take it easy. Hope to see you soon. Bye.